all my life, I said I would never be married or have kids. I looked down on motherhood, on stay-at-home moms who wanted to raise their kids. Like, do you not have any ambition? I looked down on homeschool kids. No wonder why you're so awkward. And just any family values until I got introduced to this entrepreneurship community where I saw example after example of happily married couples who talked so highly of their spouse to the point that I was just like, is this for real? Because in my reality, all I saw was wives complaining about their husbands to their girlfriends. And I saw husbands just wanted to get out with the boys. And so I ended up finding my fate, met my husband, left the corporate world to raise our kids. And today we have 4 amazing young ladies from 1 to 6. We homeschool, we hang out. I do everything that I said I would never do. And life has been great. We have an amazing marriage. We have great kids. We've been very, very blessed up until April. My world completely, my perspective changed even more in submission and homemaking. And to give you a backstory, my dream was to be a CEO of a company, and I talked about this in a previous video that I'll link below if you want to check it out. And my husband's dream was to be a husband and a father. And right there you can see the difference in dreams and goals and priorities. We talked about all of that on our first date, and it was very clear to me that I was going to get to raise our kids and homeschool them. And obviously, at that point, my heart had already changed on wanting to be married and have kids that I could raise. And after we got married, we set some expectations around who was going to be responsible for which tasks, like paying the bills and making food and taking care of the car and all of that. And I don't remember the conversation, but somehow Micah was kind of doing it all. The only thing that I was doing was cleaning anything but the kitchen because that was his specialty. Everything related to food was his because I'm not cooking. I don't even know how. I've never been taught. And so cleaning and doing laundry, that's kind of that. And there's other little small things, but it's just to show how much he took on. And all he wanted was to serve me, just absolutely amazing husband. And fast forward to this past year where I've been feeling like I wasn't doing enough and that I needed to change some things. I just wasn't sure what until I watched this video. There was this thumbnail that really caught my attention, and it said something like, I left my career to serve my husband or something like that. And I know that I'm to submit to my husband as to the Lord, but there was just something about that video that completely changed my perspective on how to serve my husband. We live in a world where the woman has not all the power, but you know the saying, happy wife, happy life. To me, it means that if I do everything my wife wants me to do, then she won't nag me and then I'll have a happy life, which then gives all the power to the wife. Almost like a toddler. I'll give the toddler everything she wants so she doesn't throw a tantrum, which results in raising spoiled and entitled kids, in my opinion. And I can understand the popular culture around that. So my perspective is a little unpopular. And again, everything I share here is my personal experience with a biblical lens. And I find that the world is under this impression that men were created for women. And that exactly that, happy wife, happy life. 1 Corinthians 11:8-9 says, for men is not from woman, but woman for men. Nor was man created for the woman, but woman for the man. And I'm not here to teach the Bible. I'm sharing references so you can look it up for yourself. And Genesis 2:18 says, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. And I got to dissect these verses before we got married, so I'll share what I found. Comparable means of equivalent quality, worthy of comparison. So definitely not less in value, absolutely equal in value. And helper means someone who helps to serve, to assist, to make it easier for them. And I don't have to help my husband. I get to help him. And that was such an important passage for me because I was like, okay, God, I have a lot of debates and arguments with God. And so I was like, okay, so you want me to submit to my husband, but why would I? Am I less worthy that I have to submit to a man? What the heck? I went to university. As if a degree makes you worthy, but that's another conversation for another time. All of that to say is I explore a lot about submission before we got married because I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was getting myself into. So that's where I found that to God's eyes, men and women, we are equal in value. And that video helped me understand my first responsibility on this earth. And it is to help my husband, to help with his mission before raising our kids, before taking care of our home, before anything else. My first and main responsibility as a biblical wife with a helpmeet created by God, equal in value to my husband, is to serve him. When I understood the difference, I realized that that what has been missing in my life? Why I was feeling that I need to do more, that something needed to change, because God wanted me to fulfill the role of being the wife that he created me to be for my husband. And Mike is seriously so amazing. When we had a newborn, he would wake up every few hours, pick her up, bring her to her bed for me to breastfeed her, pick her back up and put her back in her crib. He still wakes up in the middle of the night right now if one of the girls have a bad dream or need help to go potty or something. And just because he wants me to be rested so much. And I would get out of the shower and my coffee, like when I was drinking coffee, my coffee would be waiting for me on the counter. And he's done that for the last 10 years. He apologizes first. He asks me, what do you need help with today? And he's absolutely amazing. And I feel so blessed that God blessed me with such a wonderful man who so wants to serve me so he can serve a family. But that was that. I felt like I wasn't doing enough for him. My first responsibility is to help him. And even under submission, I wasn't doing that to its full extent. Like, I was so focused on making sure our kids wouldn't burn the house down, and that our kids are pretty well behaved. But you know what I mean? Like 4 kids, 6 and under, it's still pretty chaotic, even when they're well behaved. And I was focused on other things. Like, I wasn't even making food. And my excuse was, well, I wasn't taught how to make food. I don't know why I couldn't learn a new skill and follow a recipe, but that's how to show that any excuse for anybody on any topic, one excuse will do. And that's not to say that you need to be making food, but to help with Micah's vision, that's just an example of how I wanted to do more for him. And I was like, okay, I stay home, I homeschool, I clean the house, I do enough. But being a homemaker is not about putting the focus on raising our children or keeping the house clean. And I know it's a common view where we quit our careers to be a homemaker because we want to raise our kids, and that the homemaker cleans and cooks and all of that. But it is so much more than that. It is so rarely talked about that we first need to serve a husband. And I think a lot of it is because most women like me, we leave work when we're pregnant or have kids. It's not as common to see wives who decide to leave their work after they get married. So it's normal that we don't necessarily view homemaking as serving our husbands first, because we haven't been taught that. But I feel this deep conviction, like, when we're being obedient to what God wants us to do, like the vertical alignment is God, my husband, and then our children, not my children and then my husband. So the first thing we need to do to fulfill our main responsibility as biblical wives is to figure out our husband's mission and go, how can I play a role in that? Sometimes it may not be writing a bestseller book and impacting thousands of lives. That was another goal of mine. Sometimes it may be smaller goals like starting his company or getting out of debt or building a joyful family life. Whatever the mission or goal, whatever it might be, I think it's such an honor that we get to serve our husband in achieving that with a cheerful attitude. It doesn't matter whether or not we believe it's a good idea to start his 7th business venture when all of the other ones have failed, or that we love shopping so much that we can possibly be on a budget to get out of debt. Whatever thought we have, if we really want to serve a husband, we need to be cheerful, period. And that's something I learned the hard way. I had such a negative attitude in the beginning of our marriage. And I know that it's easy to go, but you also have a mission. What's wrong with your husband having his mission and you're having your mission? That's what's wrong. That's why there are so many divorces right now. And again, this is my personal opinion. He goes his way for his mission and she goes her way for her mission, and there's no common mission. But what's wrong with your husband helping you with your mission? And there we go. We go back to God created woman for men, not men for women. And I'm sharing all these things because I ask those questions, because I so believe in woman power, hear me roar, that I couldn't understand the way God created us. How can we be equal in value and have such different roles and purposes? How can we even have different roles? Like, are we not capable of doing it all? And every time that I think that, because there are still times that the old me creeps back in. And that's the thing, right? When we believe Jesus died on the cross for us, our old selves dies and we are born again. I know that the role of biblical wife is not commonly talked about. And I think that for God's glory, we need to change that. Thanks for hanging out.